James, how you doing, man? How's your past couple weeks been going?
Yeah, all good,
Yeah.
man. Can't complain.
Busy with
You know,
projects?
busy with projects, busy wrapping up some
Mhm.
projects. Yeah, pretty excited. I just actually started on a new project last week.
Sweet.
Um, it's with a guy called Austin, and he's got a new company called Access Grid, and we actually did a bit of work together previously a few years ago,
Cool.
um, before I joined Tailwind. And I was actually, funnily enough, I was actually going to join. I was actually going to join those guys before I joined Tailwind, but didn't end up happening. But now jumping back in and redesigning like the whole marketing site, which is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Is
I'm
it an
excited by
existing
that.
brand, or are you doing like a bit of a rebrand there? Or you just using their existing colors and then rethinking the pages?
Yeah, so they kind of want they already have like the logo and they have like I kind of they're kind of set in stone with the sort of color scheme and they kind of want to maintain that sort of branding, but like obviously they kind of want to elevate it and just try and like stand out a bit more and just kind of update the sort of visual branding aspect of like the marketing site completely. So Alex is actually joining for the sort of development side
Cool.
of things as
Yeah.
well. So it's like a full redesign, which is projects that we love working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just been busy with that. I, yeah, just a couple of projects. Just excited about it. It's been a busy start to like the kind of tail end of the year, which is
Mhm.
always fun.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So you don't
what about
slow
you?
down at the end of the year, take any time off, going right into
Yeah,
it.
I mean, in December, obviously, it's just this December, man. It's so busy. Like a lot of Katie's family is coming back. Like my
Mhm.
girlfriend, her family's coming over from Australia, and we have a bunch of friends that are actually living in Australia just now. They've been there for like a year or so, and they're all coming back in December. So
Oh, that's cool.
it'll be fun to see them. And yeah, we've got like so many things lined up for the tail end of the year, so it'll be a busy year as usual. But I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
what you been up to? Congrats on the new gig.
Oh yeah, yeah. I started last week was my first week at Shopify. Actually, my first day, I was flying to New York to meet up with some of the folks there.
Yeah,
Everybody's been so wonderful. Just
yeah.
so nice. So like they acquired a team, design team called Molly. It's a
I
design
seen that.
agency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I seen that.
and so Molly is now the Shopify design studio, like product design studio, and kind of
Oh,
they
nice.
are their team and they have their space and
That's cool.
they support whatever initiatives, and so I get to meet all of them, and they're again just everybody's just so welcoming, like just so
Yeah,
nice. And I had a dinner with folks there that saw work from the office. It's beautiful. They have a beautiful new office there. And overall, just really excited. Just really excited. It's been a couple days there, then flew back, started onboarding. um, never, no, I don't know if anybody ever looks forward to any onboarding stuff, with all dealing with all that. But honestly, it's been a thrill. Like it's been really, really
yeah.
cool. Though it's a lot, and this is what I'm mostly wanting it for, is a lot of historical context of
Hmm.
why things are the way that they are, but also there's a lot of opportunity for evolution and improvement there. Uh,
Yeah, that's great.
Also, there's just a lot of there's a lot of access to content of what the rest of leadership are thinking, like what Toby and what Carl and what the folks get it out of their mind. A lot of like summit talks and things that
Hmm.
they've talked about with the culture of the company and their expectations. And so it's been really cool to hear something that I'm very much in support of, and how they operate. And I'm super motivated. Like I'm just so excited to get into the weeds. So I actually had some previously scheduled time off the rest of this week because I have some family coming into town and they knew about that as well. So actually next week is when I'll really be able to hit the ground running
Yeah,
after I wrap
jump
up
in.
stuff this week.
Yeah,
Yeah, the first project I'm excited. I'll share more about it once I get rolling on it, once I get a better lay of the land. But I'm so excited on the first thing to it's just going to be immediately impactful with just
yeah, that's
bringing
cool.
up the design and the experience of the admin interface and such. So yeah, it's been great. It's been really,
Nice.
really wonderful. I'm really, really excited. It's going to be hard to take time off the next few days because I'm just going to be
Yeah,
thinking about wanting to get to
yeah,
work.
excited.
So yeah, but no, it's been
Yeah,
really
no,
great.
that's good, man.
Yeah, doing that. I installed permanent holiday lights on my house this past weekend, which was a
Oh wow.
hell of a project. Yeah, it's like, man,
Yeah, we have.
200 feet, something like that, and then, yeah, you
Oh
control them
wow.
on your phone, and then
Oh,
now
that's
they
cool.
stay up all year. I don't have to
Yeah,
climb up
yeah.
on the roof every holiday.
I was gonna say that surely that's like a full-time job, like taking those back down.
Dude, it's insane, and it's just so sketchy. You're so high off the
Yeah,
ground,
yeah,
but I'm stubborn, and I don't wanna pay somebody else to do it, especially
yeah,
because, like, I'm very particular on where lights land, and then, like,
yeah,
I know if I had a
yeah,
contractor come and so be like, "This looks that's not
yeah,
uniform enough." Like, I have to
yeah.
make sure that every light is properly spaced. So, same way
Yeah,
with installing these, like, we got a quote, and it was an astronomical quote to get this installed, and I'm like, "I'm just gonna buy the
that's
equipment and do it
crazy.
myself so
Yeah,
that I know that it's done to my expectation, otherwise it'll bug the
yeah,
crap out of me."
yeah. We like I don't know. It's probably the same where you are, but we have like the local like neighborhood Facebook page, and like I always see like a couple of guys on like round about this time of year, and they're always like advertising for like Christmas lights to get
Mhm.
put on the house, and I'm
Yeah.
like, those guys must make a fortune at Christmas because I think it's like I think it's like a few £100 like they charge, and they must do like 100 maybe 100 houses, over like the course of like maybe a couple of months period.
Yeah.
Um, but
We
yeah, it's like
There's a few different models, so there's folks who will just install, yeah, and they'll charge, like, it's like 4 or
mhm.
500 bucks to install lights that you have. Um, the better situation is the folks who they install lights specific to your house. The initial
Right.
investment is a little less than $1,000, I think it was, which I didn't want to pay that. But they come and they measure lights out and they cut them to the perfect distances around where
Right.
you want them, and then they're installed. Then at the end of the season, they come and they take them down and they package them up and they store them wherever in their
Right.
warehouse, storage, or whatever, with your name
Yeah.
on it. And then the following holiday, then it's like half that price, and then they come
Right.
and install and take it down. And if there's an issue with a bulb, they'll come and replace it, stuff like that. But the permanent holiday lights on all the equipment, the the quote was like almost 10 grand to do
That's
that.
crazy.
And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for a fraction of that price, I could buy the same equipment, but then just
Yeah, and just do
time to
it
get it installed.
yourself.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
one more sketchy trip around the roof to get them
Yeah.
all installed. And now I'm so,
Yeah.
I mean, then we have them, flickering right now, like a candle flicker for
Right,
Halloween.
okay. That's
Then we have
cool.
Christmas coming up, of course. But there's
Yeah.
also things that like St. Patty's Day. Like, I didn't think about
Yeah.
that, but my wife was mentioning that. And then 4th of July. Like, there's just other these like
Mhm.
little holidays to be able to just use them
Yeah.
because you can just change the colors and patterns
Yeah,
and
that's
everything
cool.
on them. Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited about that. And of course, the kids are
Yeah,
beyond excited
yeah,
about it. That's
excited about
why
it.
we do it. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it at all anymore.
Yeah. So I feel as if like my estate, like my neighborhood is like went all out this year because like the Halloween decorations are getting pretty crazy. Like we usually like compared to like Americans, I feel like we are very much far more subdued
Oh,
than,
really?
like for the deck like for especially decorating the houses about here. But like there's this one house when you drive in the estate, it's like they've got like this like massive skeleton. Like I'm talking like it must be like 12 feet, maybe
Yeah.
15 feet, and it's like as if it's crawling out the ground, and it's
Yeah.
like huge. It's huge,
We have those
and I'm
too.
like, they've put like a lot of money and effort into like putting an effort on for the street this year.
Yep.
But
My wife wants to get
it's
one of those,
crazy.
and she wants me to put it on top of our house to look like
Yeah,
there's,
yeah,
like, I know exactly
yeah,
what you're talking about because they have a pumpkin
yeah.
head and a skeleton. I love the skeleton.
Right.
My
Yeah.
neighbor behind me has this, like, 20-foot scarecrow on his roof, and it's all
Oh
like
wow,
strapped down, like, it looks
that's
wild.
crazy.
Our neighborhood
Yeah,
gets into it, like, it gets
yeah, yeah,
so into Halloween, it's crazy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Friends at the end of the street, we do a haunted house. They have a wraparound porch, so we black it all out with like black tarps, and we turn it
Right,
into a haunted house. To where
right.
you go
Okay.
up their steps, and to the left is where like the kids can go to the candy bowl. But if you do the
Right,
haunted house part of it, you get full size candy bars on that side,
right,
and
right. Yeah,
there's just
that's
you
cool.
don't there's like 4 or 5
It's
people
like a
dressed
full
up
experience.
horrifically in there, and we every year, and for the past, I don't know, I've lived here for 3 years now in this neighborhood, and it's just a scare. It's
Yeah,
just
that's cool.
hilarious, and people love it. And
Yeah,
this year, I
that's.
actually built. I found a YouTube video on building like one of those pressurized air canisters that if you go into like a
Oh
haunted
yeah, you
house
walk by and it like
and like blast your ankles really loud.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I bought this little 5-gallon air compressor or air can, and took the regulator off of it to put like an inlet regulator, and it's got like a T pipe on it, and then I have a
Right.
12-volt solenoid with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
steel pipe coming out of it, so that I can hook up my big air compressor to it and control the pressure so that I'm not, creating a dangerous
Yeah.
situation. So it just fills it with like 30 psi of pressure. And
Right,
with
okay.
I have a 25-foot cord that I hooked up to a 12-volt battery, and then that 12-volt solenoid, and you just like tap it, and
Gotta
it's
take
so
some kid's
loud.
legs off.
Oh, no, 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 it's not a lot of pressure. But I'm so excited to use that this year as a prop to just like stand out by the fire and just let people walk
Yeah.
by and just,
Oh, that's
super
fun.
loud. I'm really,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's fun.
I'm excited for Halloween.
I would just love to sit by that and just like wait every time.
Yeah.
It'd be the most fun job ever. Just
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah, just watch people freak out on it. Yeah. I know. Well, that's cool. So today I went through and grabbed the like Q&A questions that we had from. So for extra context for folks, we tweeted, I don't know, a year ago, year and a half ago, back when we were at Clerk together, that we wanted to do a
Yeah.
podcast together, and we asked for Q&A questions, and we got a lot of them. So I pulled from that one. I think we've recently asked as well, but I hadn't pulled from that. But so these are like the original folks who had asked questions,
Mhm.
and I thought it'd be fun. We'll go through this and kind of give thoughts. But full disclosure, like I've read these, but James hasn't, so it'll be a very very raw kind of response, and I'm excited to dig into it. Some of them are deeper
Mhm.
than others. Some of them definitely be easier to answer than others. But yeah, let's get in. Um,
Mhm.
so Thomas Paul Mann, the founder of Raycast, asked this, and he was actually the first person to ask a question in that thread. And he asked, from idea to production, walk through the iterations of a feature. And so we're getting right into product right away. And my like I from like the start of a feature and start of a feature creation, I normally take the path of what do I want this to be? Like, what would I want to use here? And really try to
Mhm.
empathize with the user in that way of what would be the best possible outcome here. And then my next kind of step through is what's the minimal amount of design or minimal amount of UI needed to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because if I start designing and thinking about this whole big flow, there's probably efficiency opportunities in there that I'm not thinking of because I'm thinking about designing this really, really, beautiful thing. We've talked about
Mhm.
like our episode about a design leveling of, the meme on Twitter is the junior designer is like some ugly button and the senior designer is some beautiful button. But in my head,
Yeah.
it's like the junior designer is the really beautiful button and the senior designer is no button at all. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
if
exactly.
folks
Yeah.
spend too much time on creating something that doesn't need to exist because they didn't think about the most efficient solution. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so from idea to production, like that's initially thinking like, what would I want this to be? What would be the best possible solution to this? And try to work back from that and make it
Yeah.
as efficient as possible. And there's certainly a lot of times where there is no feature that gets developed because it ends up being automated. It ends up being some sort of engineering or system efficiency or
Yeah.
system automation that happens that maybe is just a toggle switch, just to turn it on, just to
Yep.
utilize the feature type stuff.
Mhm.
But for the ones that involve more UI, I tend to get, especially with the tooling that we have these days, I'm into to high fidelity pretty fast, and,
Mhm.
and, and especially with design systems and componentization, it's very easy to just design with, the final kind of UI.
Yep.
Certainly, there's going to be bespoke UI needed for certain features that, to communicate what that is doing.
Yeah.
Um, but then also, when and go into high fidelity quickly, I'm also writing. I'm writing code quicker than I am getting to like the
Like
final.
designing.
And like my
Yeah,
Figma
yeah.
files are like wild because they're just not like you are don't write code, but your Figma files have like the end all be all final. This is your expectation of what the end
Yeah.
result should look like, and you'll
Yep.
break down all of the breakpoints of what it looks like on different screen sizes, things like that.
Exactly.
And mine's just like, here's some scratched together pieces of UI with with what buttons
Yeah.
that we'll use because those are part of the system. But I'm trying to get the code quick so that I can start clicking it, feeling
Of
it, get
course.
preview
Yeah.
deploys together to hand off to stakeholders and folks.
Yeah.
Just to start like, oh, this is cool. And then what if, and then I'm
Mhm.
changing code and altering it in that way rather than changing it in the design, because then I can just push a commit. You can see the difference, and you're just even closer to that final PR as opposed
Yeah.
to iterating back and forth in Figma to where like, all right, cool, this looks great. Now you have to go build it. So I do a
Yeah.
lot of kind of design thinking in code,
hmm
but definitely go back and forth. I find myself a lot. If there's
I
something I
think
kind of want to explore as a flow rather than setting up all the routes or the state that's necessary for that, I'll put
yeah.
together some screens in Figma to kind of get my idea generally there, shoot a screenshot into Slack and say, what do folks think about this? And then, kind of go from there. I don't like calling meetings for reviews. I like quick feedback, move fast,
Yeah.
and get it into something we can start clicking on soon. Because like, where did I read this recently? It's so profound and it stuck with me. Showing, we need to share things early and often because
Yeah.
sometimes showing someone the wrong thing is the way to get out of their head what they're actually wanting,
hmm
especially to stakeholders. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy cow, like that makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this already in conversations that I've been having is that folks want to give a lot of context on how they got to the result, the solution, and they're presenting to high level stakeholders. And it's like none of that matters. Like I just want to see what you decided it should look like or what you decided
Yeah.
the design should be because the users will never get to see those like that context. The users won't
hmm
get that story on why this feature ended up being the way that it is. So you need to
Yeah.
be able to just communicate your decision on why this is the decision that you go with without all of that story on here's the iterations that we went through. Like, no, it doesn't matter. And as quick as possible to be able to get that feedback of like, I like this or I don't like this.
hmm
But again, back to sometimes showing someone the wrong thing can get out of their head what they're actually wanting to get
Yep. Yep.
quicker to the right thing. So
I
you know,
think I think like just to go back to like sort of the sort of strategy of like maybe how I would approach that. And I feel like this is like a good this is what I would do like in terms of like if it was a new feature and we were kind of in that design process and we were you mentioned there obviously you're kind of much quicker like in code, but for me, I think like a good way of designing a new feature as well is trying to look for similarities in other products that have a similar feature.
mhm.
And sometimes like that probably sounds like pretty difficult, but I feel like you can go on like I use mobbing for
Mhm.
this, where I'll type in like a generic term where like I don't know, like for example, like say there's a new billing feature or there's something to do like with that. I would just type into mobbing billing, have a look at like a bunch of different products and UIs and just kind of get a grasp of like the kind of core idea for the feature, and then try and just see if there's anything else out there that like is what you're trying to design,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's a good way of like you can quickly just like I literally just like copy the design for whatever product it is, and I'll paste it into Figma, and it's just like a good reference material for maybe some layout patterns or different iconography, or maybe there's a way of like putting in navigation that's different to what you're actually trying to design. I don't know,
Mhm.
like there's just I think that's always like a good kind of really simple way of like just quickly trying to like figure out the idea and figure out the feature. I feel like there is always a product out there that might have already done it and maybe done it well, and you can take like inspiration from that and apply it to like your own product. So
No doubt.
I think from like a design perspective, that's kind of like the sort of process that I would probably take to try and do it.
Yeah, I think there's users have expectations, especially when there's just general patterns that have been
Yeah,
accepted into the industry. I
exactly,
mean, certainly the innovation
exactly.
opportunities everywhere, um, but there's an investment in that, and I think that there's a time to think about when to invest in trying to innovate
Yeah,
or
hmm
trying to make things.
exactly.
And
Yeah, exactly.
I think innovation kind of sometimes requires adaptations from users as opposed to following existing patterns that are tried and true. And
hmm
I think your approach is very validated there of leveraging existing solutions so that
hmm
you're inspired there. Um, and users will accept that much easier.
hmm
The Dan, the product guy on Twitter, I'd like to know how you manage to fix deadlines working with top talents like the team at Clerk, and how do you manage time generally? Um, I love this because I certainly have opinions on it, and it's around and I even responded to his tweet. You mean nix instead of fix deadlines. My most productive experience building software was on a team a few years ago, and there wasn't any discussion around deadlines, and I think it was my first experience with that. And it was the expectation was to solve the problem and build the feature. And I was lucky enough to work with probably the most incredible engineers that I've ever gotten to work with up until this point. And because of the amount of trust and seniority and responsibility that were given to us, the conversations were, Derek and David, you're going to go work on, you're going to build this feature. And there was never a discussion of how long is it going to take or here's when we need it by. It was, you have two folks who are skilled in their jobs, who are responsible for designing and building this feature. Go do it. And we were driven by the desire to build the best version of that feature out there, not driven by what can we do within this certain amount of time. We never thought about that. We never thought about how long this is going to take. And I honestly think that like we were blazing fast. Like we built, large features in a week, couple weeks. We just weren't thinking about time. We were just thinking about the excitement of getting it done and having the ability to just create the best version of that thing that we possibly can. And we were driven, by that motivation across the teams. And I just never even worked closely with like a VP of engineering, and he never mentioned that. We certainly had like launch weeks that we were excited about. I think we did that like once or twice, but they were many, many months out. We knew what we wanted to have as part of those launch weeks. We were never grinding to something to make sure that it gets done. But as far as like deadlines go, I mean, even at Clerk, when putting that team together, you'll have to remind me. I always try to keep deadlines out of it. It was always just here's what we need to do. Go do it. And that was the exciting part of it, is that you weren't limited by the time that you had to do that, because now your focus is on like I have to hurry up and do this, as opposed to the best thing that you possibly can.
Yeah, I feel like, we probably had like unconscious deadlines that we were trying to like, aim for, but I feel like that was the beauty of like that team, was we had like the freedom and time to like really create something great, whether that was like working on the marketing side or the product, and I feel like probably the product was a lot more time constrained, in the sense that trying to get features rolled out and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like you say, I think you can only do the best you can with the time you have. If it's like if you've got a deadline, you just have to do the best you can in that time. And I feel like we did end up doing that to an extent with the marketing site. I think like as the pages sort of ramped up after like maybe a year or so, I think we kind of came up with this kind of structure where we would design like the static, like I'm talking about the marketing site, like we would design like the static pages first, and then then we would spend time, like me and Brad would spend time on like actually putting in the effort for like the animations and making sure that like all came together in the end, and like I think that was like a good sort of it was like a good sort of like way of like moving things forward, because obviously new things would come up during that time. So getting like the sort of kind of static version, and again I'm just talking from the kind of marketing side at Clerk, but getting the static version in the best possible place, and then jumping back in and really kind of spending time on like the kind of smaller details, like the animation work and things like that. Again, you're kind of like helping everyone in that sense, because you're getting the feature out, you're getting the content out, you're getting the marketing out, and then it's your job to kind of like jump back in and kind of really spend time on the kind of details, which I ended up enjoying. Like I'm very much a perfectionist, so I like was always just kind of like disappointed and sometimes like launching the static version just because it's like not the finished version, if that makes sense. But I think it worked because like I said, you're kind of making everyone happy by not like delaying like a page being delayed, you know,
Yeah.
like for a while.
I think
So
I think no deadlines works when it's a small concentrated team of folks working on the same thing. I
hmm
definitely understand that and support like some sort of goals, time goals when it comes to a larger scale to where multiple teams are involved. Kind of all need to
yeah,
be aligned on like a timing expectation of some sort of how long
100%.
something's going to be. And if that's the case, I usually um under promise over deliver there. Like
Yeah.
if something's going to take a week, I might say 2.5 weeks.
Yep.
And then if it's done faster, awesome. Now, now, and how can I help you, pull your time back too, or I can support something else.
hmm
I think the worst case scenario is, thinking that something can be done in a week and it actually takes you 2 weeks and that
Yeah.
throws off a lot of things. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm generally against deadlines just because I'm focused on myself and my team doing the best work possible and constraining them with time. Um, I haven't experienced this, but I've certainly seen it happen. There's two outcomes there is what can we do? What's the limited version, the time limited version of this outcome and the quality of
Yeah.
this? Or someone twiddles their thumbs until the last 2 or 3 days and then works hard on it to be able to meet the deadline.
hmm
Um, that's process solving a people problem, and I think that will certainly expose the folks who are truly invested in what you're doing. And I mean, I'm super driven. I love to work fast. I love to take on a lot. It's a good and bad part of me, but that's why I guess I don't prefer deadlines because I just want to make the most amazing thing I possibly can and not think about how much time do I have to do that, because I'll
Yeah.
still work the same amount of speed, but
hmm
like the stakeholders didn't realize what they could have got if they would have let that person work at their own speed. But instead, that
hmm
person was working at somebody else's expectation of speed. So they ended up getting that version of that output instead. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tricky balance. But
For
I think
sure.
like at scale, I think that there should be some timing expectations. But when it's a team, one team, 2, 3 people, all working on the same thing, I just don't see the need to put time constraints on things because you should have really great talent working as fast as they need to work to do their best work. So
Yep. For sure. Yeah.
yeah,
It's always something that. Yeah. It's always like it's something that should be kind of set out at the beginning. You know, the expectation should be there from the beginning. I feel that's the the most important part. But yeah, I agree. I think like if you've hired the right people and they're all aligned on that, then I think you don't have to worry about deadlines and things like that. I think if you trust in people that are going to do the work and they're going to do it well, yeah, I think it all works out.
mhm. Yeah. The other part of this question was how do you manage time generally? I assume he's asking me, and I'll ask you the same question. But for myself, like I need my focus time. I need my like get
hmm
in the weeds, turn on some music, and just build, design,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's for me, it's a lot of calendar management, blocking off time, just setting expectations of this is my time, um,
hmm
and then making sure to provide time for others who need it as well. Clerk had no meetings on what Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I think, something like that, which was pretty wonderful policy to put in place. I read somewhere, I think Shopify does like no meetings Wednesdays, but I like those types of days where it's just a company wide expectation that there's no meetings on this day. There might be
Yeah.
something that comes up, you hop on a Tuple call, something like
Yeah.
that, of course, which
hmm
are wonderful because they're needed. I'm not going to wait until the next day to have a conversation with somebody that might need to happen that day. But it's
hmm
mainly for reoccurring meetings, no reoccurring meetings on those days. And they're
Yeah.
great. I mean, they're great for everybody. Everybody gets excited about having a whole day free to be able to accomplish
Yep.
what they want to accomplish. So for me, it's a lot of just calendar management and setting expectations there, having work hours on my calendar. I have my work hours and I have my meeting hours. So like my work hours are like 9 to 6 normally, but meeting hours are like 9:30 to 4:30 because I
hmm
might have something going on in the evening and I want to be able to leave at 4:30 to get there. And
Yeah.
then on the other side, I might take the kids to school in the morning at 9, and that'll put me back at 9:15. And I want people to schedule a meeting there. If I don't, then I have an extra free half hour in the morning to get settled in. So
hmm
my work hours are different than my meeting hours, and that has
Yeah.
worked really well for me.
Yeah. I'm the same. You definitely have to be intentional with like blocking out your time and being conscious of like your day, and like you said, I think like structuring your days that way, I feel like works really well for me as well. I'm someone that just doesn't like a lot of meetings because like I like to just get in a flow state, and if I end up with that distraction of a call or a meeting or whatever, it just kind of can take me completely out, like, you know, whether I'm in Figma or whatever, and or doing some research, just I think yeah, it totally helps to have like that dedicated time on your calendar and kind of sticking to that,
Mhm.
But yeah, very similar to me. I like to structure my days like that, and like I said, just being intentional with time for meetings and other things.
Mhm. Yeah, I like to avoid reoccurring meetings in general if possible. As a manager, I like one-on-ones
Hmm.
to happen kind of when folks want them to happen. Um, some recurring touch points really nice, but as far as like a weekly things like that,
Yeah.
later on, I think early on it's important to stay in touch weekly, but then spreading those out further and further to be able to just have one-on-ones when it's necessary.
Hmm.
Can we talk today about something? We're going to talk tomorrow, and then throw something on the calendar. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just trying to respect other people's time too, because it's when we're actually getting stuff done, talking about
Yep.
getting stuff done. Sometimes can be a drag, but yeah, that's how I do. Rob, hey, my name is Rob on Twitter. How do you presumably jump between Figma and code to work things out? This is probably targeted more to me, and like I
Hmm.
said earlier, um, I am back and forth. I get some sort of general idea of what I think something might end up being in Figma, and then as soon as it starts coming to life, or start kind of getting in a general direction, that's when I'm creating a branch and going to start writing some code. I want to bring the final version to life as fast as possible in code because it's better. And the code version the implemented version of a design is always and should always be better than the design itself because now it's alive. Now you
Hmm.
can click on it. Now there's hover.
Yeah.
Now there's delight, and yeah, be able to have preview deploys for other folks to experience their version of what it might be because it might be visualizing data for them differently than it's visualizing mine. That's where you start finding these things like maybe truncation issues, line wrap issues, like things that you designed perfectly. And designers always and are extremely good at designing the best version and the happy path version of something. But there are constraints that you're going to uncover in code that were not possible in Figma because
Yeah.
you used that text and that name and you duplicated that piece of copy and it looked great because that was the thing that you used, but now you put it in real world scenario with real data, and now it's like, oh, I didn't consider that.
Yep.
So getting into code and into the implementation as possible, I think helps a lot with the efficiency and the velocity of getting to the shipped version of it because of that. Because there's those browser level constraints that you just can't uncover in Figma. So I and then there might, those constraints might result in me going back to Figma and designing some version of what it might be. There's a form validation error state on something. And like, I'm not going to design that in code. I don't know what it's going to look like. So I'll go back over if something for that hasn't been designed yet as part of the system, then I'll spend some time in Figma designing what that might look like and share that with some folks and see what they think about it. And then take that back to code and see what that error looks like there. And that's a great example of something that you never know what it's going to look like because the error is always going to be different on the
Yeah.
page that you're in. It's like
Hmm.
toasts, there's so many different types of toasts and what those toasts are going to say. So designing a toast, sure, that's easy. That's fun. But implement that toast and have real world toast data in there. And you're like, oh, this is a
Yeah.
3-line toast and I only designed for 2 line. Are we going
Yeah.
to truncate it or are we going to redesign our toast to support 3 lines? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just an efficiency unlock that I have felt of really understanding the medium and building and designing for the medium that's ultimately going to be where it's going to live, and that's for me mostly in the browser. So that's how I
Yeah,
jump in code.
that's I think that's a good point to end that on, is like I think designing with real data really, like even in Figma, I always design with real data, whether it's, an example from the client or the project that I'm working on. I think like just trying to keep it as true to the actual final product really helps in those situations. Like obviously like designing UI like toasts or whatever. Yeah, always design with actual real data and not like lorem ipsum or whatever.
Yeah. Parker Henderson, Parker Hendo. He's a homie on Twitter. What a great kid. How do you manage to get the company aligned seemingly so quickly to build a design team with design engineers? Love this question. I've told this story many times. When he's talking about the experience at Clerk, and so I was contracting with Clerk, and they wanted me to come on full time, and I didn't necessarily want to. Not because I didn't want to work with them. I just wanted to stay contract. Because I was working with Tailwind at the time and Zed. And I liked that experience of jumping between the teams and supporting folks however I could. But they wanted to take their technology that had found product market fit and put design focus and a significant design investment into it, with the hypothesis that that's going to continue their growth through trust in design and the quality and the presentation of their product. And I certainly think it worked. I mean, absolutely. I mean, what I think it did for Clerk was monumental, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm very excited for Colin and Braden and the success that they have found in Clerk. So early conversations were kind of around me coming in and taking over design there were very, if we're going to do this, this is what's going to happen. Because I knew through my experiences that if you expect me to just go build a design team who can put really pretty pixels together, if I go out and I hire 10 James McDonalds, if you don't have anybody that's going to build their designs, they are not going to be motivated to do their best work possible, knowing that every time it gets handed over to someone that's implementing it that does not care as much as them, that it's going to end up worse. And again, I am very, very hard pressed on that the implementation should be better than the design itself.
Yeah.
So we were very aligned, and they were very supportive in the beginning that I wanted to have UI engineers, and that's why I called them UI engineers, because they were responsible for building the UI, no design at all. So having UI engineers on the team, then obviously, my conversation with you, if that's how it was going to be structured, that certainly took concerns off of your plate of potentially joining the team, because you knew that the folks that have built your UIs before, that you were very proud of the outcomes, were going to be a part of the team with you.
Yeah.
So, and in my Dive Club episode with Rid, I talked about this of like, you have like a James and a Brad working together. And, when you have a James McDonald and a Brad Korn working together, like the world, like there is no ceiling. And you have James pushing designs because he knows that Brad can do it. But then Brad is able to exceed those expectations, which then takes James to want to do better next time. And just like, there's just no limit. And you continue to level each other up. When there's this disconnect in the teams of design and engineering and implementation, and there's handoff, there is now this separation of responsibilities, because you have these engineers who are responsible for writing code, and you have designers who are responsible for incredible UI, beautiful UI, the craft, the quality, and the quality of the code is their responsibility. And from what I found is that 90%, 95% of engineers who aren't, in UI layer, they don't want to write HTML. They don't want to write CSS. They want to solve hard engineering problems. So when you add this like UI engineer, design engineer layer there, now you have someone who can communicate to the designers in a non-technical way, and they can communicate to the engineers in a technical way, and bridge that gap between what this designer designed, here's the implemented version of it that's incredible because I cared about that implementation as much as that designer cared about designing it. And then you hand over those beautifully crafted UIs to the engineers who are focused on the persistence, the caching, performance, Well, I shouldn't say performance, because the UI engineer is very responsible for re-renders and performance and profiling, all that as well. But so back to it, we were very aligned, we being Colin, Braden, and myself, of they wanted that. And the VP of engineering at the time was very supportive of it as well. The way that I really communicated it is I showed a version of a design that was implemented with what I think poor practices. And I think that it specifically utilized like non-transparent borders, and like it's very clear and easy to see when somebody doesn't do that because
Yeah.
it looks blurry. Just like,
Yeah, when you point it out, you can't unsee it.
so I showed them the code of what that looks like, and that's probably something that you're going to see in your code base. And then I showed them, a higher polished designed version of that was the same exact content, same exact containers, same exact text, but had those little details that were not, you didn't notice it, but now you see this version of it side by side, and you're like, that is objectively better. Like that is better. And I explained that like UI engineers, I can design this version of it and most often hand this version over to an engineer building it, and they're not going to see those details. They're not going to pay attention to concentric border radiuses and transparent borders to get contrasting shadows and the amount of shadows that were used on it. But if you hand that over to a UI engineer, you hand it over to a design engineer, they're going to obsess over discovering those details, and they're going to see those details, and they're going to compare the output and realize that something's still off. And they'll be able to implement those details without even communicating to the designer who's creating it, because they care about that as much as the designer. So that level of quality in implementation and that care is what takes all that implementation and the quality to the next level. Because if you're just focused on the talent of your design team, non-technical designers, just your visual designers, it will never end up being like that in production. I'm having conversations now that I can tell folks are feeling that. So I'm excited to influence that within my new company. So Align so quickly. The question is right off the bat. I mean, that was part of conversations of, if I'm going to join this team, this is what I would really like to see happen. This is what I would really like to align on, because you have to trust me that the outcomes that you're looking for aren't going to be at the expectations that you have if you don't follow this type of process, because it's just a separation of care. It's a separation of what they want to happen. The designer wants incredible UI. This layer of engineer wants incredible implementations. They want to put those details, as much as your engineers are sweating your database persistence, your performance, your all of this other type of stuff. There's a responsibility. I have just invested in myself of being part of that first two a lot, to where like I've built and managed those teams because I can communicate at a highly technical level to the UI engineers, but can also communicate at a non-technical level to the designers to help push them and bring their visions to life. And that's like why I go to bed and wake up in the morning. It's just my favorite thing in the world, is to make these ideas, help these teams bring these ideas to life at their level of expectation, because then certainly that's going to upwards, to the stakeholders, to the founders, to the owners. They're going to see that and feel that change and that impact from those responsibilities and that level of quality and care that goes into their craft. So it's I hope to see more and more of it. I certainly talked to a lot of folks about that structure, and I'm going to continue to try to influence Shopify with that type of structure. We're already having conversations around how we want to evolve the design to support that, but it's it has to. I mean, like Parker asked, how did you get the company aligned? And he's talking about, the rest of leadership, the founders. Like, it has to come from them.
Of course.
It's be an uphill battle if you're trying to, convince.
I think you've seen that process sort of work before, so it works. So like, why I think like implementing that sort of process again, there's no harm in doing that. Like it works. So like why change something if it's not broken? Just like continue with that sort of process. And I feel like I like that's my mindset. I think if I've worked with someone a certain way, or I've worked on a project with a person, and we've worked a certain way, I would always try and just replicate that same process in the future and on future projects. And obviously I know it's detached from like getting a team involved, but it still applies if you're freelancing or whatever. I feel like if you've got a particular way of working and with a particular person, I feel like implementing the same sort of process across the board kind of helps.
Something like that. I mean, you will immediately feel the influence of that one person that's coming in to influence the implementation portion of it, because you can find a designer who does incredible work, but like I've said a million times, your users never see your Figma files. It does not matter
Yeah.
how good your Figma files look. That's why I don't
Yeah.
invest a lot in the polish of my Figma files. I want to invest in the implementation. I want to
Yeah.
invest in what the user sees. And
Yeah.
even just having one person around, you will notice that the output of their results are different than the other project results because of their influence.
Yeah.
People want Vercel level quality, linear level quality, Raycast level, Clerk level quality, like Stripe websites. Everybody wants that, but that's how they do it.
Yeah.
They have design engineers and UI engineers that are responsible for building, not designing, building
building,
world-class UI. And that
Yeah.
comes from world-class design, and that's just it's not secret. It's not a science.
Yeah.
I don't know why folks don't do it more, but it has a
Yeah.
profound impact, not only on the results but on the culture as well, because folks are just having so much more fun. Because again, it goes back
Exactly.
to, I can hire 10 Jameses, but if there's not 10 Brads, it's
Yeah.
like, why spend all of your time trying to make the most amazing design possible if you know that it's going to get butchered in the implementation?
Yeah.
So and vice versa. Those types of people, those types of engineers, they want hard designs. They're motivated
Yeah.
by difficult solutions
Yep.
because they want to build like the most beautiful, amazing thing ever. And the most beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing thing ever takes more time and it takes more effort.
Exactly.
And those skills develop, and it's hard, but it's so motivating because it's so
Yeah.
hard.
And
Easy
it's worth
designs,
it,
ugly designs,
Yeah.
they're not motivating to build. They're just
Exactly.
not exciting.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one thing I realized when working with Brad as well, like Brad in particular. Like I would always design something, and if I shared it on Twitter or whatever, I would always get like a reply saying like, "God help your engineer,"
I know, it's so crazy.
and then I'd be like, "That's the idea, Brad. You need to go with
Yeah.
this."
Yeah, it's not part of that team he's talking about. I mean, yeah, Brad. We talk about Brad Corns because he worked with James at Tailwind, but there's the Emil Kowalski's, there's the Joe Bells, the Austin Calvages, the Alex Carpenters. Like, there's the the Marys, and it's just there's so many people out there that want that. Like,
Yeah.
like
It can be
want if it's
if it's easy,
not
yeah, if it's easy,
motivating. Yeah.
exactly. It's like it's not interesting enough for people to get up every day and like just work on something easy, Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that applies across the board. I feel like you like that is where I've had the most fun is like coming up with designs that, and I mean that's why we spent such a, and I know I'm going all over the place here, but that's why we spent so much time on like the actual Clerk build and website, was because we wanted something that was like amazing to design and amazing to build. And I feel like that entire process was so rewarding at the end, because like we just tried to like push the entire boundaries of like what we were doing and what we are actually building. And I feel like if you ask anyone from that, like, that period, I feel like every day was like a new challenge and a new sort of like just a new challenge for everyone to kind of to kind of bump heads against, but yeah, that you'll probably find you'll have the most fun when it's like that, for sure.
And it takes the boundaries away from everybody. I mean, people are just so motivated to do even better work because they know that the team that are working on it, just anything's possible, or a lot is possible, a lot more than before. So yeah, you'll get me very passionate about that. That's for sure. Because just outsized impact on that. That's why I'm so supportive of designers learning how to code and at least figuring out how to adjust your own shadows, typography, like tiny little things, even, because you get to start being a part of that polish and that detail. Maybe somebody else isn't as in the weeds on the details that you're trying to implement, but then you can go in there and adjust and really pull that fidelity out yourself. I think it's really important to leverage the tools that we have these days for designers to try to provide some sort of impact at the code level, being the value that it brings. Yeah. Great question. Ashish on Twitter, Ashish UXI says, techniques for sourcing and harnessing inspiration in design, something that he was asking about. Um, yeah, I told you about Cosmos. It looks like you have found success with that. Like, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Pinterest, Dribble, Mobbin, of course.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I think spend most time with. I really have later on in my career now started looking at more real world, like architecture, and
Yeah.
video games, even being inspired by how they handled some sort of transition and things like that. And so,
Yeah.
like, real world associations and design has been like really cool. How light reflects off of something, and then that turns into
Yeah.
sort of UI pattern in my head.
Yeah, we've
So
definitely spoke about this before, but I think like a lot of inspiration for whatever it is you're working on, I feel like you have to like lean into the stuff that you like. You know, you have to lean into if you like football or you like collecting Pokemon cards or you like I don't know something. I feel like you need to lean into those sort of things that you like and obviously use some of the new tools that are out there as well. Like for whatever medium it is that you're designing for, like Cosmos that you mentioned there, Derek. Like that's just I don't know why I like hadn't been using that sooner because I feel like it's just like the kind of upgrade on Pinterest.
yeah,
Like
it's just like
I
an
mean,
extremely high quality Pinterest.
yeah, like Pinterest is great, but like yeah, like as soon as I started using Cosmos, I was like, why have I not signed up for this website
Yeah.
ever? I don't know why I didn't. I've been using it like obviously over the last couple of weeks on a new project and just getting some ideas, and it's like tenfold, like just been so great for inspiration and some of the things that I'm trying on this new project. So yeah, definitely that. Obviously, I mean Dribble is pretty. I mean, it's obviously like an archive of like really good work. Just like if like most designers are still like kind of got their work on there over like the period that it's been great.
Mhm.
Like where else? Like Mobbin, obviously really great for like sites, and I use like if I'm getting inspiration for like marketing sites, I use like Saspo. That's a
Oh
really
yeah, I've
good.
definitely heard of that one. Use that as
That's a
well. Yeah.
good and Landbook as well is a good one. Site Inspire is a good one. Um,
Twitter. I mean, like, I have so
yeah,
many
Twitter.
bookmarks.
Yeah,
Like, a bookmark things
yeah,
constantly of like cool
yeah,
things that I see. Yeah.
yep, yeah. Bookmark feature. Yeah, I've used that on
I have
Twitter.
a folder on my computer that's just called inspiration, and then I just drop screenshots in there. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
harnessing it. Like, I
yeah,
very often will see something like that's really pretty. That looks really nice.
yeah,
Take a screenshot of it and throw it in that folder. And I most
yeah,
often might not, go back to it, but it's there in case I want to like
yeah,
look through and kind of see what I was previously liking and such. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that's yeah. Those are a bunch that you could use. Um, yeah, I can't think of anything else, but I think Cosmos for me, like just being able to type in a random, like I was playing around with like pixel art, like you remember pixel art,
Mhm.
like back
Yeah.
back in the day, and I was trying to combine that style with like a kind of illustration style that I've been working on recently, and and like Cosmos was so great for that for just like punching in like pixel art, but then I switched up the search term and I was like pixel like um pixel rays or something like that I
Mhm.
typed in, and like the amount of like, and the best feature ever is like when you find something that you like and then it's like the little UI at the bottom, it says like more like this, and it just like gives you so many more, and like you click on that and then you click that button again and it's just like this endless like
Oh yeah.
feed of like I mean I don't know why. Obviously I've used Pinterest for that sort of similar feature, but like yeah, I was finding things that just like were tied to what I was searching a lot better.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely. If you want to sponsor us, Cosmos, then go ahead.
Ashish asks about strategies for mastering attention to detail in UI projects. I mean, it's a lot of practice. It's a lot of practice, but also practicing the right thing. I think the most important quality for a designer to learn is asking why something looks good. Uh,
hmm
throughout your journey, I constantly do it.
Yeah.
Something I see, I'm just like, wow, that's a beautiful design. That UI is great. But
hmm
just acknowledging that it's great and not understanding why it's great does
Yeah.
nothing for me.
Yeah.
I need to understand. I can show you two different versions of designs, and you can say that one's better. But if you don't understand why that's better, then like how
Yeah.
will you grow in your understanding of what's good and what's not?
Yeah.
And what you think is good might be different than what somebody else think is good, but still it's important to refine why you think it's good
Yeah.
and
Why?
really
Yeah.
truly deeply understand when I'm looking at this and I think that this is a beautiful UI or an icon or some sort of design is like, why? It's the white space. Like you're
Yeah.
using a lot of white space. The shadows have a lot of detail on them. What is the corner radius? I mean, I can't tell you like how, like it might be like some sort of setup. I'm like, this looks like really rounded, but not, and take a screenshot of it, throw it in Figma and put something on top of it. So
Yeah.
I'm always like dissecting designs that I think are
Hmm.
great so that I
Yeah.
can figure out like what strategies are they using and what are they doing that just makes this feel so good. If I just
Yeah.
passed by and said that's great and moved on, I would have no understanding. I would know
Yeah.
evolution of my skill set on understanding why Derek thinks something looks,
Yeah.
because then I can take those patterns and really kind of uncover why those feelings feel that way and the techniques that are used to invoke those feelings. I can then take that learning into my next design because I'm now
Yeah.
going to utilize kind of those whys and the understanding of those whys in my
Yeah. I
result
think
design.
like a big part of that is I get DMs all the time about that, and I think like just try your best to like recreate something that you like, because you'll not only like start learning more about the tool that you're using and learn the features involved in that tool, but also you'll learn how someone designed that specific thing, like whether it's a button or whether it's a part of a UI. Like I just think that's like the core, that's like just the fundamental thing that you should be doing, is trying to recreate stuff that you like,
Yeah.
because you'll then get better at actually designing that sort of like UI or button or whatever, that you can then implement in your own work. And each time just trying to like be curious and kind of say, right, okay, I'm going to do this a little bit different, whether it's the border radius or the typography and the button or whatever, like just try and like, I think that's another kind of key part as well, is like, if you've managed to like really replicate something, you've really managed to like understand how someone's actually designed something that you like. I think just taking it that extra bit further, just say like, just keep questioning, like you said, just keep questioning yourself and say, like, how can I then like add to this? How can I put my own spin on this?
Mm.
Because I feel like a lot of people don't really do that. I feel like a lot of people see something, you see it all the time, like whether it's a kind of design trend or pattern that's out there, and they'll just like kind of replicate that, like just how it is, rather than going, right, okay, I really like how that looks and feels, but I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to try this way, and I'm going to maybe use a plugin to change the shape of it or whatever. I'm just like, ranting here, but like I see it all the time. I think like that's a core part of like, what I do in my work. Like if I see something I really like, and I see like a website that's done like maybe a section really well, and I try and understand why I like a part of that section, I then, if I get a project and I think to myself, oh, that website designed a section that I really liked, but I'm going to try and take this basic idea and try and put my own spin on it. So I feel like, having that sort of thinking and taking inspiration, but also like applying your own method and your own sort of thinking to it, and your own design style, and yeah, I don't know, I think that's like a kind of a core part of like how I think. And
Yeah.
I think people should do whatever they want, but like, yeah, I don't know. I just think there's that part of it. It's so easy just to replicate something and try and implement that in your work. But, take that inspiration, but like try and, put your own stamp on it, because then that becomes yours. That becomes like your own unique sense and your own unique way of like thinking.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think that kind of pushes forward.
I've encouraged that a lot. I completely align with you. Through either mentoring or teaching, that's a strategy that always encourage folks to do, is when you see something that you like, just design that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even encourage them to take a spin on it, um, merely because it takes all of the thinking out of it. It takes
Yeah.
all of the like, what do I do with this? If you're just trying to literally
Yeah, if you're just learning, if you're just
replicate
learning,
a
yeah,
design, you know, if you like
exactly.
something that James designed, go to his Twitter and pull that screenshot of something and design the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Side by side,
yeah,
identical. You can't share it
yep,
as your own, of course, but think about the understandings that you got
yeah.
from that, you know, from that exploration.
It's the learning curve. It's how you
Yeah.
learn, you know.
Yeah, like, James just used Figma. He didn't use anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
So if there's something
yeah,
that he did and you're like, "How is
yeah,
that possible?" You're about to learn how, because you're about
yep,
to figure out how to make it look the same. You might
yep,
approach it a different way than the author did, but now you learned how to do that thing that you didn't know how to do before. I think another
yeah,
really important part of that is then when you see them side by side and you see that they're not quite the same, that's gonna be a learning opportunity because you're about to find
yeah,
out why. You're about to
yeah,
find out like, "Oh, there's this little detail right there that he put there that I didn't notice until now I put
yeah,
them side by side and I don't see that on mine." So then you add that
yeah,
detail. And then those types of little tiny value adds start showing up in your designs later on, you know, for work,
yep,
like your
yep,
own original stuff. But I really
yeah,
like the just replication of a design because I don't
yeah,
have to think about the design. I don't think about coming
yep,
up with anything. I'm literally just creating the exact
yeah.
same
You're
thing.
just
And that won't
replicating it.
over those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're like I say that all the time. You're just like it's like just repetition. You know,
Mhm.
it's just constant repetition of like, you know, here's something I like, try and copy it. Here's something I like, try and copy it. Here's something I like, try and copy it. And over time, you'll gradually sort of like build out a sort of like understanding and knowledge of like your toolkit.
Mhm.
And then it's about like sort of kind of combining everything that you've learned over that, you know, constant repeating of like like copying something and replicating something, and then you can apply. I think your brain, like my brain anyway, kind of works that way where, you know, if I do that over and over again, I can like start applying those sort of methods into something new that I'm designing, and something, you know, whether it's like a new hero section or something, I'll kind of, because I still do it. I still like try and like copy other design work that I've seen. You know, like it's just something that I'll constantly do, and I feel like it's super important not only for like keeping on top of the tools that you're using, but also just kind of keeps your sort of your kind of design fundamentals
Yeah.
sharp. You know, your kind of
It's
toolkit sharp.
so insightful to copy something that you think is beautiful and realize what it took to make it as good as it was.
Hmm.
Even like think like typography. Like somebody's going to be like, "Oh, they're using enter." And they're going to, you
Hmm.
know, like they're going to, you know, it starts with the letter D, so they're going to, you know, put the text tool on there, hit letter D and they're going to size down and they'll be like, "All right, they're using regular font weight and it's 14 pixel 14 point font because now they put that letter D directly on top of that other letter D and they see that that's regular font weight enter at 14 points, and then they type out the exact same sentence that's there and they realize, oh, it's different now. Like, oh, they changed the letter, like the letter spacing is tighter on there.
Yep.
So like this person's using like -1 pixel, you know, letter spacing on there, and that's why that text looks so good. And I've never done that before. You know, I don't normally do that. Not Derek, but you know, this person, you know, realizing this insight of like, I don't normally change the letter spacing on these fonts, but this looks so much better because they did, and they didn't realize that that's what was happening until they tried to design over top of it. So now
Yeah.
on their next project at work, they're going to start playing with that. And they're going to be like,
Yep.
oh, wow, like -0.5 pixel letter
Yeah.
spacing really makes this look so much better. It's that you
Hmm.
just copied somebody else's work and you
Yep.
realize this insight on how they achieved that. And again,
Yeah.
that why was answered. Why does that text look better? And it's
Yeah.
because they used tighter letter spacing on it, you know, for
Hmm.
that font size. And you know, it's just so it's just the learning and the patterns and the future growth from those types of insights and those understandings and outcomes is just immeasurably, you know, wonderful.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so yeah. Always encourage people to copy work, like literally bone to bone.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can share it as your own. You're not going to tweet it out, you know, but you're going to learn. You're going to learn from it. And I'm
Yeah.
with you. I do it as well.
Yeah.
I used to have a daily practice where I'd have some sort of snippet, you know, something on Dribble that I saw, or like a daily
Yeah.
thing where I just recreate it. And it was a really great
Yes.
way to learn.
Super important. Super important to
Yeah.
do, especially if you're just starting out. You know, I think it's one of the kind of key things that I say to everyone. Like if someone like DMs me and they're like a junior designer or like a young designer getting into design, just follow people that you admire, follow some of the stuff that on Twitter or whatever, and if you like their work, literally drag it into Figma and start trying to copy it, and you'll soon pick up some skills and like I said, in typography and shadows, colors. You'll learn the whole lot doing it that way.
I totally agree. Phil Vander Broek, Phil VV on X asks, on the marketing side of things, curious how you work go-to-market teams to nail messaging and positioning within your designs. So at Clerk, first off, I don't normally like dealing with marketing teams. It's from I don't know many design teams who would like really enjoy that back and forth because marketing wants to own their part of it and that. But specifically, I've had luck, I guess, across the board of working with really great marketing partners. Specifically at Clerk, that was next level because like Nick Parsons over there, head of marketing, it's just this like trust across the teams.
Mm-hmm.
That was by far the best experience. I even felt it at Hypermode as well with our CMO there. She was wonderful as well. But it's a level of trust between go-to-market teams and the design teams of here's what we need, and they know that what they're going to get back is going to be amazing because they trust their design team. They trust it, and they don't want to try to control what the design looks like. They want to control how effective the results are. And if there's iteration that's needed based on the what gets shipped, of course, let's do that. We all are on the same team. We all want each team to have success. But the best experience is just through trust. Like the design team needs to trust that what marketing is asking for is the most important thing to work on, and then vice versa. When marketing is asking for an asset from design, just trust that what they're giving you is going to be the best version of that thing. And marketing has never really tried to influence what the design is. They just influence what the copy is. And then again, trust the other way too. You just give us the copy. Like you tell us what you want on the website and then we'll design it. The change log post or the blog post or whatever it is. Like you tell us what marketing copy you want on there and we'll design a beautiful solution to that. And that's just how it was. And how it continues to be on the teams that I work with, luckily. And it just works so well because it's, design wants the best version of the design and marketing wants the best version of the end result, of course. And when they trust their design team to provide those assets, that it's a great, I hope that you had the same experiences as I did.
100%. That was the first time ever dealing with like a marketing team as such, but yeah, I mean, I think like I think because everyone was so aligned with them, with design being at the forefront of the company, and they knew that whatever it is that they need designed, the design team would handle that, and vice versa. I think like super important, and I think like it just speaks volumes to like the sort of level of like craft and sort of design that was being applied across the board at Clerk. I think I think like super important. I think like I think it shows. I think you could see like across, even just like you mentioned there about the kind of change log posts and things like that. Like we would be literally designing like the like spending like good amount of time on like those sort of cards and things like that. Like I think it's important to maintain that sort of kind of brand and visual design across the company as well. And I think things like that, just small sort of details like that really matter.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's we have more to go dig into. I think that's plenty to digest. Now we can do another one of these. It's super awesome. But yeah, I'm glad we talked on this. We're clearly very passionate about a lot of these topics. But well, I think we'll wrap it up there. That's super, super valuable. I'm really excited about this episode. But man, have a great rest of the week.
You too.
Catch up with you soon.
Yeah, nice one. See you soon. See ya.